Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Easter is fast approaching, and therefore, I thought it would be great to reflect upon a Bishop Barron's Sunday sermon that he gave for Easter, where he's talking about the three lessons of the resurrection. Let's watch what he has to say, and then afterwards, I will explain what was so profound and impactful for me.
Peace be with you, and a very blessed, very happy Easter Sunday to everybody. Hey, listen, the resurrection of Jesus is the be all and the end all of the Christian faith. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, all bishops, all priests, all Christian ministers should go home and get honest jobs. If Jesus didn't rise from the dead, all the Christian faithful ought to leave their churches immediately. St. Paul put it this way, listen, if Jesus is not raised from the dead, our preaching is in vain, and we are the most pitiable of men. It's no good trying to explain the resurrection away or rationalize it as a myth or a symbol or an inner subjective experience. Trust me when I tell you, they've been trying from the very beginning of the church to the present day to do exactly that, to make it more, credible, less threatening. But none of that does justice to the novelty and the sheer strangeness of the biblical message, of what's on display on every page of the New Testament. I've described it as the grab you by the lapels quality of the New Testament. It's not like other kind of spiritual, religious, or philosophical texts that are trading in abstract ideas and drawing you into the dynamics of the spiritual life. Nothing wrong with any of that. But then read those and then read the New Testament, and trust me, you'll see the difference. These people weren't trading in platitudes or spiritual abstractions. Something happened to them, and it was so overwhelming, so strange and disturbing, they wanted to tell the whole world about it. I'll say it bluntly again. If Jesus is not raised from the dead, Christianity is a fraud and it's a joke. If he did rise from the dead, then he's the fullness of revelation. He's the full manifestation of God, and he must be the center of your life. Can I echo here something C.S. Lewis pointed out? The resurrection of Jesus, just poses to us this kind of dreadful option, if you want. Either you're with him or you're against him. If he didn't rise from the dead, he was a terrible, misguided lunatic, making these extravagant claims about himself that were completely unjustified. And he ended up, put to death and thrown into a grave. We should spend zero time thinking about him. If he rose from the dead, then he is who he said he was. Then he is the incarnate Son of God. Then he is the still point around which the whole universe revolves. You're either with him or against him. And this day, everybody, this Easter Sunday, compels us to make that choice. Now, in light of that, I just wanted to establish how real and strange and decisive the resurrection is. But having said that, I want to explore real briefly just three great truths that follow from it. Here's the first one. This world is not it. Now, I'm going to try to be careful and qualify here. I don't mean this world's bad. I don't mean we should just flee from it. I'm not advocating Platonism or Puritanism or some sort of dualism. But see, I think our culture really needs this message of the non-ultimacy of this world. Look, this world that our senses take in, that our minds understand, that science studies, etc., of course it's real, and of course it's good and true and beautiful and all of that. I don't deny one bit of that. But the danger today especially is we fall into a kind of ideological materialism, an ideological naturalism that says being is simply identical to this world of our ordinary experience. What's the problem with that? Well, the problem with that, everybody, is it conduces toward a sort of nihilism. Let's face it, everything in this world is passing. It's evanescent. It comes and it goes. Think of all the plants and insects and animals and from time immemorial. What's happened? They've come into being for a short time, then they pass out of being. Even the stars and planets, you give a large enough expanse of time, they come into being and pass out of being. We, fragile human beings, the psalmist says, what's our span? 70 years or 80 for those who are strong. It's still basically true, isn't it? We come and we go. If this world of ordinary experience is all there is, well, then the only option really is a kind of despairing nihilism, that nothing lasts, everything passes away. But what if, everybody, what if this world, and yes, in its beauty and its truth and its goodness and all that, but what if this world is not all there is? What if, in fact, there's a dimension of reality that stretches beyond this one? The Creed speaks of our belief in the God who's made the visible and the invisible. If there's a realm of being that transcends this one, and that our lives are ordered finally to that place that does not pass away, that place of supreme goodness and truth and beauty. You see how the resurrection of Jesus from the dead opens the door to that world. Not that it's just happened for everybody, but it's an opening of a door. Now, through the resurrection, we can see into this higher realm, and our lives have a new focus, a new higher purpose. Nihilism does not have the final word. Death, Paul says, where is thy sting? You see, to speak of death is to speak of the ultimacy of this ordinary world. And Paul says, where's your sting? There's something beyond this world. There's a first lesson of the resurrection. Here's a
So that is Bishop Barron explaining his first lesson of the resurrection. If you want to see what Bishop Barron has to say are his other two lessons on the resurrection from this homily, the video link is in the description below to his specific video on his channel. Christianity rises and falls on the resurrection. If Christianity is true, Christ is arisen, and it literally means that it is the most important, it's the single most important event in the history of the world. If Christianity is false, it is a fraud. That means we should just all go away, go back to our homes, find honest jobs, whatever that would mean, and just live out our days trying to find and create our own subjective meaning because there isn't any meaning. And we should just try to find a purpose in anything rather than find purpose in the one thing that actually matters, which is Jesus Christ. So, do you believe in the resurrection or not? Is the resurrection a primary interest, a primary reality to your Christian walk in life? Bishop Barron's lesson was that this world is not all there is. Now, that doesn't mean that the world is bad. It just means that in a very atheistic and enlightenment driven age, we live in the temporary here and now, and we can't escape it. Bishop Barron often talks about the buffered self, how we need to break the buffered self apart or punch holes into the buffered self so that we can see the transcendental realities that really influence and affect and are really the ground from which the reality that we live in our day-to-day lives actually takes place. The resurrection points to the fact that this world is not all that there is, that there's something to live for in the future, and not only to live for in the future, but to find hope and immediate expectation in the here and now for what God can do. If he can raise Lazarus from the dead, if he can raise his son from the dead, and of course, the son in his omnipotent power and in his definitive action has domain over sin and death, that means that we can live into an already not yet reality that sees the bearings and the marks and the seeds of that great victory. Now, you're only going to perceive that, you're only going to live into that reality if you see that there is something more to live for. The problem with the world, the problem with the new atheistic movement, the problem with not perceiving that this world is not, that there is something more to this world is you never escape this world. You never escape your mind. You never escape your own pitied existence. You never escape your own wants and desires. You never live for something greater than yourself. How could you live for something greater than yourself if yourself is what you perceive as the only thing to live for? That is hell, ladies and gentlemen. I'm thinking of a great theologian who once said that hell is the deterioration of the self into the nothingness from which it cannot return. You were created by God. That's an irrevocable covenant and calling. You will live forever, but how will you choose to live? Into the resurrection and new life, or into a false worldview that Christianity is a fraud and therefore live into the death of your own sin nature? Those are the two options you have. You have to choose. Do you perceive that this world is not all that there is, that Christianity ultimately comes down to the resurrection? Everything rises and falls on it. And of course, I believe that it will continue to rise because its Savior is risen, and he is risen indeed. All right, be reflecting upon that as Easter is coming up, and I will see you in the next video. Remember that Christianity is Christ, and without him, there is no Christianity. See you in the next one. Peace.